Not from here. I'm not from here. I'm making a video about Posadas.
Where are you from? From Buenos Aires. Look at how crazy that building over there is. What's on the rooftop? Is it like a helipad?
Is it really a place for helicopters to land up there? I think the only way for Topo to get married is if he does it. How's it going? We are in Posadas, the capital of the province of Misiones, in the northeast of the Argentine Republic, across from the city of Encarnacion, which is in Paraguay, and also very close to Brazil. We're going to start this video at a central point in the city, which is Plaza 9 de Julio. I'm starting here because my hotel is right across from it. And here in Plaza 9 de Julio, being the central one in the city, we're going to find its most important building, especially those related to power. Here we have the government house of the province of Misiones. The building was inaugurated in 1883, and it has a pink color because at that time, for the facades of important buildings, they used a paint that was a mixture of lime and cow's blood. In fact, the Casa Rosada, our government house of the Argentine Republic, has exactly the same color. This building has been here since 1883, and just a few years earlier, in 1879, that's when this city was named Posadas, in honor of Gervasio Posadas, who was the first Supreme Director of the United Provinces of the Rio de la Plata. In the past, this city was called Trinchera de San Jose, but originally it was founded in 1615 as Anunciación de Itapúa. And it was founded by Roque González de Santa Cruz with the goal of establishing Jesuit missions here. In fact, the province is called that because it's the province of the mission. A curious fact is that Misiones, until 1953, was a national territory, and only then did it become a province, with Posadas becoming its capital. Actually, Posadas at one point even belonged to the province of Corrientes, which is right here, about 80 kilometers away. And speaking of government buildings, across from the square, we also have, as is customary, the cathedral. It recalls the name of the old Trinchera de San Jose. I like that in this square you can already feel the whole jungle ecosystem. It's beautiful. Here in the center of the square we have the monument to Ali, to freedom. It wasn't made by Milei, but was created on May 25, 1910, commemorating the centenary of the May Revolution. I like that each tree has its own sign. That way I can tell you that this is a yellow lapacho, and that one over there is an araucaria. And everything here also has its explanation. I like that. You'll see that there are very few people in the square, and that's because I went out to record during siesta time. I usually try to go out and record during siesta hours because when you go to many provinces in Argentina, the streets are practically empty. That way I can be more relaxed. There's not so much noise and so on. But you can see some people here enjoying the square. We could say that today is quite a fun day. It's pretty cool for the province of Misiones. Usually it's unbearably hot, along with tremendous humidity. But today it's pleasant. So you have to make the most of it, go out and walk. There we can see it's 26 degrees for Misiones. This temperature is the best thing that could happen to us, especially at this time of the afternoon. You're not from here. I'm not from here.
I'm making a video about Posadas. Where are you from? From Buenos Aires.
Me too.
Where are you from? What did you come to work on?
Let me explain. Sorry to bother you.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm from La Plata, he's from Palermo, and we're with someone from Salta. So we're all from different places. We run a foundation, Christian homes for women, children, and men. We just try to get by with the little things. I know they're not the best from the bakery. They're honestly really cheap, man.
I'm recording now and all that, but thank you, man. Of course.
Thanks.
All right, go ahead.
Misiones is the Yerba Mate province par excellence for those watching who aren't from Argentina, Uruguay, southern Brazil, or Paraguay, which are the places where we drink mate. Let me explain. Mate is basically our signature drink, where we take a container called a mate, put yerba in it, add a straw called a bombilla, and drink it. Generally, for example, in my case, since I'm from the Buenos Aires area, we drink it hot. Here in the north, they usually drink it cold. It's called tereré, especially because of the heat. But here in the square, we found a place to get hot water. But anyway, no, it doesn't work. It's broken. There's not even a button, nothing. So there's not even any water. Supposedly it must have been some sponsorship from Rosamonte, which is a brand of yerba from Argentina that must have put it here at some point. They slipped in the app. He said, hey, yeah, we'll put in the advertisement in exchange for people having hot water in the square. But no, it doesn't work. It's not available. And here in the square, we're also going to find the monument to your mom. The monument to the mother. It says there that it's a tribute from the child from Misiones with the sponsorship of the Posada Lions Club. And they made it on October 16, 1960. We can already see that the Christmas decorations are up. Well, I suppose they're up because we're close to Christmas. Unless we're recording in Caracas, where they celebrate Christmas at any time. This is just the first few blocks I've walked in Posadas, and I'm really liking it. It looks very neat, very organized, very jungle-like. Okay, I need to explore a bit more. You'll tell me, well, it's not downtown, but it looks nice. It looks nice. And you're gonna ask me, Topo, is this your first time ever in this city? No, actually I was here in 2011, but I came for work. That time I took part in a Congress of the Federation of Electricity Cooperatives, and I haven't been back to this city since then. In fact, that was the only time I was here. But it has changed a lot in the last 15 years. Nah, man, I can't believe there's a place called Chetas. For those who are watching me and aren't from Argentina, Chetas would be like snobs, posh people, the kind of person who talks like this. Well, you know, it's good because you already know where to shop if you're a Cheta. You don't have to worry about looking for a place that fits your lifestyle. I love cities that still keep these giant marquees. Look, this pretty modern building we have right in front of us is none other than the City Hall of Posadas. It looks quite picturesque. And I have to say, the city is very clean. They keep it in pretty good shape. I mean, at least the downtown, the urban area. That's something, for example, you don't see in Buenos Aires. You walk through downtown in our city and it's disgusting. We've arrived at the Posadas waterfront. Look how beautiful it is. Here we are at the Paraná River. And right across we have the city of Encarnación, which belongs to Paraguay. If we cross this river, we're in another country. I really love this border atmosphere, just like when we were recently at that unique border between Brazil and Uruguay in the cities of Rivera and Santana do Livramento, or like when we were at the border between China and North Korea, which were separated by a river. North Korea is about as close there as Paraguay is to us. But obviously, the differences between Paraguay and North Korea are huge. And you might be wondering how many people live in the city of Posadas. According to the latest census, this city has 327,000 inhabitants, but actually in its urban area, we could count around 600,000 people because we have to add what is known as Greater Posadas, which includes places like La Candelaria or Garupá. And we should also count Encarnación, because there are a lot of people who come from Encarnación, who cross from Paraguay to Posadas to work, to shop, and vice versa. People who go from Posadas in Argentina to Encarnación in Paraguay to work. So there is an urban area of around 600,000 people who spend their days in and around the city. This riverside promenade was a result of the Yacyretá hydroelectric dam, which is located about 100 kilometers from here, downstream. Already in the 1950s and 60s, there was the idea of building a hydroelectric plant by taking advantage of the Paraná River's water flow. But in 1970 de construir la represa, but in 1973, when the price of oil skyrocketed as a result of the Yom Kippur War, they signed the agreements to build the dam. But even though the agreements to build it were signed in 1973, construction only began on December 7, 1983. And it was only inaugurated in July 1994. But its last part was only finished in February 2011. Things moved slowly, and the costs were quite striking. Depending on what you take into account, about $11.5 billion were spent, which meant a pretty significant cost overrun. Who knows where those remaining dollars went? Keep in mind that since it's on the Paraná River and Paraguay is on the other side, the dam is binational. It belongs to both countries, Argentina and Paraguay. Just so you know, Yacyretá is one of the most important hydroelectric plants in Argentina. It has an installed capacity of 3,200 megawatts. Keep in mind that last year it produced 10,000 gigawatt hours, and the total produced in Argentina was 140,000 gigawatt hours. So we're talking about this dam producing approximately 7% of all the energy in our country. So how is the dam related to this riverside promenade? Well, in order to transform the river's hydraulic energy into electrical energy, you need a strong flow of water. To have a large flow of water, you need a reservoir. Therefore, the reservoir that was built increased the river's flow. And that caused the lands bordering the Paraná River along the shores of the city of Posadas to be flooded. That is to say, there was an environmental impact in this area. Many of the houses that were here were moved to another part of the city, and part of the ancillary work tied to Yacyretá was building Posadas' waterfront. A project that was also very slow and had rather murky construction costs. Just so you know, construction began in 1995, and the first section of this waterfront was inaugurated in 1999. The construction company was the Macri Group, and it was only fully completed in 2013. So things moved slowly, both for the Yacyretá Dam and for the waterfront that was built as a result of the flooding of the lands near the river. But today we can enjoy a beautiful place in the city of Posadas. It's very attractive, really nice to come for a walk, bring your mate, your tereré, sit back and enjoy the afternoon. Now that people are getting up from their siesta, you can see many people exercising, running, walking, riding bikes, and it's very enjoyable. That's the beauty of having a city that doesn't turn its back on the river, unlike what happens to us in Buenos Aires. And walking here along the waterfront, we're gonna come across the old Posadas train station. In 1912, the railway service reached Miguel Lanús, not to be confused with the Lanús station in the province of Buenos Aires, but rather the Miguel Lanús station in the province of Misiones. And in 1913, they inaugurated this station here, which is the Posadas station. In Posadas, the capital of the province of Misiones. Here we can see an example of a locomotive that used to arrive at this station from Buenos Aires at the beginning of the 20th century. In this case, the Posadeña. And the service operated until 1993. It even had the train ferry service to cross over to the city of Encarnación. Now, in 2003, the service was reactivated from Buenos Aires to Posadas. It departed from La Croce station. The Gran Capitán, which belonged to the Urquiza Railway, was operated by a company called Trenes Especiales Argentino.
Trenes Especiales Argentinos announces the new summer schedule, departing from Federico La Croce in the capital on Mondays and Fridays at 10 p.m. at the same prices as last summer. During these holidays, travel for only 65 pesos.
And the service reached this station specifically until the year 2008. What happened after that? They raised the level of the Paraná River. That prevented the crossing between Miguel Lanús and Posadas. And therefore, the service only reached Apóstoles. And in 2009, a year after the passenger service stopped arriving at this station, they began to demolish it. Topo? Yes! Stop! How are you? Topo!
Topo around the world.
Why should I send my dad a picture?
Come on, yeah.
Salute. What are your names?
Not Faustino, it's Noah. Do you know the station story?
Actually, no. You'll see it in the video later. And in 2009, a year after this station stopped operating, they started to demolish it. But luckily, years later, they rebuilt the station. That is, this building is not original, but it was rebuilt in a way similar to what the original Posada station was like, which had been inaugurated in 1913. And what happened to the passenger service from Buenos Aires to the province of Misiones? It was suspended in 2011. And since then, it hasn't run, and I think it will never work again. I hope I'm wrong, I hope I'm mistaken, but there's no light at the end of the line. You could say, sad, unfortunate. They say that when they dismantled the station in 2008, they stole everything. Like, this sign isn't original, supposedly. The bell was stolen too. Here we have a scale that was used to weigh the packages, which I don't know if it's original or if it was restored or recovered or brought from somewhere else. The railway scrapping causes many valuable things from the stations and the rolling stock to be stolen. Here we have another old locomotive, in this case the Misionerita, and as we can see, it's pretty covered in graffiti. And if in a few years we disappear as a society and some Argentinologists come, just like in that Tato Bores sketch, like those who study ancient vanished civilizations and work hard to study our language in order to understand our sacred writings. They say, let's analyze what it says there. They spend 10 years studying our language, and it says, whoever reads this is a fag, you're a fag, and fuck your mother, you're both fags. Long live Andres Calamaro. And you might be wondering what's in the rebuilt old station today. Well, there's a cultural center. There are also government offices. For example, here is the State Secretariat for Climate Change, and there's also a room for civil weddings. I think the only way the mole would get married is if he did it in a train station, and that's the case here in the city of Posadas. Still, it's pretty wild to say you get married in Posadas. Well, this right here is the most iconic monument in Posadas. It commemorates Andresito, or better known as Commander Andrés Guasurari. Who was this person? One of the most remarkable Guarani figures in our history. This person was born in Corrientes in 1778, the same year as General San Martin, and he joined Belgrano's army in 1811. And then he joined General Artigas's army. And he wasn't just anyone to Artigas, because he took him under his wing and even considered him like a son, to the point that he allowed him to use his last name. In fact, we can see there that it says General Andrés Guasurari y Artigas. And between 1815 and 1819, he was governor of Misiones. And during his administration, two things stood out: agrarian reform and the abolition of slavery for the Guarani and black people. Not a minor detail. But in 1819, he was kidnapped by the Brazilian army. And it is believed that he was executed by firing squad in 1821 in Rio de Janeiro. It's not something new for the army of Rio de Janeiro to repress and kill you. And it still happens to this day. No one knows where Commander Andresito's body is. And in 2013, this tremendous monument was inaugurated. It commemorates him on the banks of the Paraná River. It's about 15 meters tall, and it was made by a sculptor named Jeronimo Rodriguez. Nowadays, it's the iconic photo spot for everyone who comes to this city. It's next to the Andresito monument, and if you want to learn more about this story, there's a very good documentary from 2011. It's called Buscando al Comandante Andresito. You can find it on YouTube. Here we have another monument made by Jeronimo Rodriguez, which represents a ship, and it's located where the old port of Posadas used to be, which was inaugurated in 1914, and it was dismantled after the construction of the Yacyretá Dam reservoir, when all of this was flooded. Over there we have the bridge called Roque Gonzalez de Santa Cruz. We're gonna cross this bridge tomorrow. We're gonna go to the Paraguayan side as well. We're gonna check it out. In fact, the crossing is done by train. I came here specifically to experience the binational train. And this international bridge was only built in 1990. Before that, people could only cross by boat. I came to eat at a place that I think has the best view of the whole waterfront. Over there you can see the Andresito monument, and we have a full view of the Paraná River and of Paraguay. And we're gonna order something really traditional. In this case, a sopa paraguaya, which is translated into English as Paraguayan cornbread, and a chipa guazú, which is translated into English as Paraguayan cornbread pudding, or also, well, in Spanish it's translated as torta de choclo. The price for each dish is 4,500 pesos. Let's see what the size is like, but it doesn't seem expensive to me. This is Posadas' version of Puerto Madero, one of the top areas. And the restaurant is called Don Fulgencio, which recalls that comic strip man who never had a childhood. He was a pretty childish guy in his everyday actions. Well, I could kind of be talking about myself. And here we got these typical Guarani dishes, sopa, paraguaya, and chipa guazú. The portions are small. I was expecting them to be a little bigger, but let's try it and see how it is. Delicious. I love Guarani food. Let's see how the chipa guazú is. Dude, it's amazing. We're in the historic part of Posadas in Bajada Vieja. And here we have the monument to the Mensú. And this is also the Mensú promenade. Mensú is what they call the jungle worker. The word comes from mensual in Spanish, which referred to those who worked for a monthly wage. It was a very demanding and exploited job, practically on the verge of slavery. People would go into the Misiones jungle to work on the Yerba plantations and also to extract wood. And many of them went in and never came out. They ended up dying in that process of exploitation, and they were paid a miserable wage. There's even a very iconic movie from our Argentine history, which is Thunder Among the Leaves, directed by Armando Go in 1958. Many people associated with that because of the appearance of Coca Sarli and because it was the first movie. It was the first time a pair of breasts were seen in our country. That's the memory our parents' generation had. And unfortunately, it's remembered because of society's prurient fixation. But what the movie actually deals with is something else. It's about the exploitation of the Mensú laborers in the Misiones jungle. And the movie is actually based on a book that was written by Augusto Roa Bastos, a Paraguayan writer in 1953. From what I understand, and those who know about cinema will correct me or confirm it, the goal of Armando Go, by including that erotic scene with Coca Sarli, the idea was to attract the masses, let's say. So they would go see the movie, and as a bonus, to talk about the issue of exploitation in this region. However, everyone just focused on Coca's breasts. And nobody paid attention to the Mensú and the exploitation of workers. As usually happens, right? We focus on the form and ignore the content. Or as they say in sociology, when something popular becomes mainstream, it loses its syntax even if it keeps its vocabulary. Or as we say in my neighborhood, a pair of boobs makes you forget what's important. And here is the whole Mensú promenade, which is on Bajada Vieja Street, which refers to that, to the old descent to the Paraná River, and it's the historic neighborhood of Posadas. This old neighborhood is called Villa Sarita. It's important to point out that in the 60s, Posadas had a big migration from the countryside to the city, because in that historical context, they were going through a yerba mate crisis. So the rural workers, the Mensúes, started to migrate to the city, and they began to form shanty towns. Many of them were in this area. But when the waterfront was built, they were removed and relocated to the outskirts of Posadas. And this area began to gentrify as we can see it today, although there are still remnants of some houses from that time. Here we have a very famous place. in this part of Bajada Vieja, which used to be Doña Pomposa's grocery store. And it has a mural here that shows us how Bajada Vieja used to be. Look here. This tile is called Los Capangas, which refers to the foreman of the Mensú. When we say don't act like the Capanga, it's referring to the foreman of these exploited people in the yerba mate production. And here you can see how he's holding the knife. Threatening. Let's agree that in Posadas there aren't many old buildings, except for the government buildings. The station was demolished and rebuilt. But generally speaking, there aren't that many old houses left, not that many old houses, except in this area here, where a bit of the historical heritage is preserved. Look at that crazy building over there. It has something on the terrace, like a helipad. That thing up there really is a place for helicopters to land. If that's the case, it's pretty wild. I found out about this building, and it's called the Torre del Cerro. It's the tallest in Posadas. It's 108 meters tall, and indeed on its terrace there is a helipad, but it was never operational. It was a project that didn't work out. But it's crazy to have a helipad on the roof of your building, for real. Well, I mean, there are places like in Mexico City, in Sao Paulo, or in New York, where that's normal. But here in Argentina, no, it's not that normal, let's say. Like, I have a helipad on my rooftop. I just bought myself a huge pineapple and mango smoothie, 6,000 pesos, right here in front of the waterfront. Delicious. Hey, how's it going?
Let's see.
Corre, cabres motorcycle.
It's the brand of the chupa. Chupa. See it? Some bread and salt, dead at the cold nothingness. The hug is given.
Ah, la
The
brasa.
last one? What is it?
Cassava, just cassava here.
The dough.
Cheaper. It doesn't have pork cracklings or anything. I mean, it doesn't have to be in it.
It doesn't have any.
No meat. And it doesn't come with just cassava. Yeah. What's the price?
Each portion costs 2,000 pesos. 3 for 5. The ham and cheese one is at the theater.
Here we are. Thank you very much. I just bought myself the caburé. It's like chipa, but made on a stick over the coals. Let's see how it is. How is it? Dude, it's much better than traditional chipa. It has that smoky flavor from being made over the coals. Dude, and here with the smoothie, the caburé, the Parana River in the background, the best way to see it. Night has fallen on the waterfront of the city of Posadas. What a picture-perfect scene after watching that sunset. And I came to this spot where there is a waterfall that represents the Iguazu Falls, which is the main tourist attraction, the most important one in the province of Misiones. It's approximately about 300 kilometers from the city of Posadas. And the truth is that it's a problem for Posadas, because they want to promote tourism. But the reality is that everyone who comes to Misiones, visitors head straight to Iguazu Falls, but few come to Posadas. Everyone I told about visiting Misiones asked if I was going to Iguazu. No, I'm going to Posadas. They should promote joint tourism to visit Posadas and Encarnacion and cross over on the international train. Like, that should be the combo. Maybe that could be the strategy to promote it. But honestly, it's pretty complicated to get people to come here. The city, honestly, is really nice. The waterfront is beautiful. It's peaceful. It's safe. I was able to film with the camera on the street, and nobody told me, hey, be careful. In fact, I asked if there was a problem filming with the camera, if it could get stolen. They told me, don't worry, nothing will happen. So in that sense, it's pretty comfortable. I mean, the main industry they have here today, besides international trade with Paraguay, it's the production of yerba mate and wood. Just like in the old days, if the train were to reach here like it did back then, with a pretty comfortable train, etc., I think that could really promote tourism a lot more. So people could come here by train, and that you could even continue all the way to the Iguazu Falls. That would be fantastic. Just like they did with the Maya train in Mexico. They could build a train from here to Iguazu. But I'm really just dreaming, because that's not going to happen. Still, I'll tell you, I imagine this fake waterfall to be much bigger and more brightly lit. It's small. That whole rocky wall should have a waterfall coming down and a lot more lights. That would be spectacular. Something really good I've noticed is that there are public restrooms all over the city and they're spotless. In fact, I arrived this morning by bus, and at the terminal there was a restroom that was luxurious. It looked like a 5-star hotel bathroom, really well taken care of. And look, this one here is pretty good too. Next to a park, very clean, very well maintained.
Well, now those of you who always complain that I always show the bathrooms are probably insulting me, but then there's the other team that says, Topo, please show the bathrooms. Well, just for a moment, sorry if you're eating, as if you guys don't go to the bathroom. And here in Plaza 9 de Julio, where we started this video and this tour around the city of Posadas, I'm gonna say goodbye to this episode of A Topo Around the World. I hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.